This is Verified, a show that debunks fake news from across Africa and beyond. My name is Linda Ngari.
And I am Calvin Rock. But first, a little lesson on terms and trends in the world of fake news.
So, Calvin, you remember last time we looked into the different terms around fake news. These included misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation.
Do you have a new one for us?
I have a new one for you. And it's called, wait for it, mid-information.
Mid-information. So, Linda, what is mid-information?
Mid-information is a scenario where there is no evidence or scientific proof to show that something is true or false. So we are left somewhere in the middle, hence the word mid-information, where we cannot tell because there's no enough research that something or a particular claim is beyond a shadow of doubt true or false. And this was mostly seen during the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right. I suppose this could also mean when there is research, but people jump into conclusions over that research.
Right. Most of these cases would be seen in when the COVID vaccine came in, and also in the thickness of the COVID-19 virus. You remember when people would say the vaccine causes infertility, or certain herbs and concoctions would cure COVID-19. Do you remember any of such claims?
There was a lot of that. So, Linda,
yeah,
which of these claims do you have for us?
So let's start with the herbs. I mean, I'm sure you or even myself were forced to take some concoction of some sorts, or even herbs. We were forced to take them because they were claimed to cure COVID-19. But there was no evidence that could actually back that up. This is because COVID-19 was a novel virus. It had never been seen before. A lot of research was taking place. So when you claim before the vaccines, the actual vaccines were confirmed, we had claims like ginger or lemon could cure COVID-19. Smoking weed could cure COVID-19. Breast milk could cure COVID-19. What other claims did you hear, Calvin?
Actually, Linda, right. I was a victim of those claims. I had an aunt who made me drink the concoction every night. And my mom was also a fervent believer of this concoction. A concoction of ginger and lemon and hot water and whatnot. But I think I know where they come from.
Where?
Well, the concoction has previously been used to cure some conditions, say common cold. Mm-hmm. So naturally, given that COVID-19 had symptoms quite similar to common cold, people made the conclusion that perhaps, since it could ease the symptoms of common cold, perhaps it could also cure COVID-19. And people came to believe this as true.
Right. But it was not true, was it?
There is no research to show that it was really true.
Exactly. Hence, mid-information. Another instance is that Africans were immune to COVID-19. Did you hear of these claims?
Yes, Linda, I heard of these claims, and I think it was owing to the low number of deaths and infections in Africa compared to other countries, say in the Western world. Mm-hmm. So, Linda, my question is there an explanation for this?
There were less infections in Africa because the first case in Africa was confirmed in February 2020. But in the world, the first case was confirmed in December 2019. So in between that period, a lot of rapid response and mitigation measures were already in place before the virus hit Africa. So by that virtue, a lot of infections were prevented from hitting Africa. Have you heard of any other explanations towards Africa not getting as much infections?
Well, I also think the fact that COVID-19 was proved to affect people who have aged, people who are older. Mm-hmm. The data shows that people who died were mostly above 65 years of age. Mm-hmm. And looking at Africa compared to the rest of the world, the population in Africa is quite a young population. Mm-hmm. So the COVID-19 virus didn't affect Africans as much as it affected those in other countries. Hence, the reason why there was a relatively low number of deaths mm-hmm. and even infections in Africa. So it all has to do with the immune system. People who have aged have a weaker immune system, and that is what COVID-19 rided upon.
Right. So, Calvin, I'll take you back to the instance of herbs. HIV was there long before COVID, obviously. And we even had claims that some of these herbs, and one of them that we fact-checked at Piga Firimbi included the claims that a combination of leaves, roots and barks of cassava and black seed, as well as this plant called Jatropha cactus. Did you get that one?
I got it.
I can't repeat it for the life of me. But a combination of the leaves, roots, and barks of these plants and herbs was said to cure HIV. But there's no evidence towards this. As we know, according to the World Health Organization, there's no cure to HIV.
There is no cure to HIV. There's only, let's say, the ARVs that only boost the immunity.
Yes.
And talking of HIV, earlier this year, there was a claim that fully vaccinated people will develop HIV/AIDS. I don't know if you heard about that.
I may have heard about. So is that true or false?
Well, it seemed true at first. The article published by the Expose, a UK-based alternative media house, showed that, the article claimed that data from German government institute, that is the Robert Koch Institute, had supported the claim that fully vaccinated people will develop HIV/AIDS by end of January. Now, when throwing in the government's name in that makes the idea look real, right?
I would believe that because, and especially German government, if you'd see Kenyan government, you may doubt it because you're used to lies, but German government.
I know. So the Robert Koch Institute is a government-run institute. So the data that was published by Robert Koch Institute seemed to support this claim. However, it was later found that the data was erroneous.
Right.
The data was recalled. The data was later corrected. Now, the other thing is that according to the CDC, Center for Disease Control, one cannot develop AIDS without getting the HIV virus. So it was quite preposterous to assume that people will develop HIV/AIDS from just being vaccinated. The data was wrong.
Yeah.
Even the insinuation itself was wrong because you can't develop AIDS without having developed HIV/AIDS, HIV virus. The virus is not contained in the COVID-19 vaccines. So this was misinformation as well.
Right. Finally, this very preposterous claim about 5G in connection to COVID-19. What was that about, Calvin?
Linda, I will say this was people just grappling for answers. Also, the coincidence of the timing. The COVID-19 virus outbreak came just when 5G network was being launched. Now, given this coincidence, people naturally connected one to the other. There were a number of claims, Linda.
And what do you make of that? Is it true, not true, misinformation?
Well, first, these claims were varied. One of the claims was that the COVID-19 virus was activated by 5G network.
Was it?
Before I tell you if it was or not, the other claim was that actually COVID-19 virus wasn't killing people, but people were dying from waves from cell phone towers owing to 5G network. Well, both these claims were false. First, there has not been any research connecting COVID-19 virus and 5G network. Also, research has shown that there is no connection between waves from cell towers of 5G network and effects on adverse effects on health. So the American Cancer Society has done research and has found that there's no connection between 5G network or that the 5G network has no effects or adverse effects on the human health. So both these claims were false and all this was misinformation. Definitely it was misinformation.
Right, because there's no proof that it was true or false. And I guess misinformation is mostly prominent among health claims because for matters health, you actually need
research
and guinea pigs as as people would call Africans at some point when the COVID vaccines were being tried. But we can see that health especially is a very alarming subject. It affects all of us. It makes all of us scared. And also, it needs to be very accurate, and there's a need for a long process before we can determine something. So we can see also why it's easier to have a lot of misinformation in health claims because of the process.
Yeah, it is, because health claims need a lot of research, and this research need to be conclusive, and the data resultant from the research needed to be considered objectively.
Right. So in case you've come across any of the kinds of misinformation we've mentioned, remember you can share these podcasts with your relatives in those WhatsApp groups and any other platforms where people may be prone to falling for fake health information or any form of misinformation. You can share with us any claims that you would like us to fact check. Our social media handles on Twitter are at Piga Firimbi. And we can also share with us on Facebook. Our handle is Africa Uncensored. And our website, where you would find claims across all subjects from across Africa and beyond, is pigafirimbi.africauncensored.online. Until next time, I have been your host, Linda Ngari.
And I am Calvin Rock.